Now here's a little quirky game that came out early in the life of the PlayStation 2. Okage, the Shadow King. It's one of those games that most people I know have either heard of or most probably not. If you haven't, it's not a huge deal. But if you have played it, you probably remember it for its unusual style. Okage, or is it Okage? Okage? I don't know how to actually pronounce it, but anyway, it's an RPG that stars Ari. Or is it Ari? I'm gonna have some issues today, aren't I? Anyway, I'm gonna call him Ari. Anyway, Ari is a normal boy who the game calls perhaps a bit too ordinary. Along with his sister Annie, who I can definitely pronounce, he heads to a circus, and then on the way home, Annie is attacked by a ghost that inflicts her with a curse. This curse is that she must hilariously speak in only Pig Latin. Of course, her family isn't too keen on leaving her this way, so they look towards a mysterious bottle that the father has found. It's here that they encounter a ghostly butler by the name of James, again who I can pronounce, who presents, here we go, King Stanley Hi-Hat Trinidad the 14th. Sweet, I got that on the first try. Or you can just call him Stan. He assures everyone that he can cure Annie, but only at the cost of possessing a shadow of one of the family members. He holds a strange contest, and of course Ari wins, or loses depending on how you look at it. Stan is now permanently attached to Ari, and they set out to conquer the world in Stan's name. Soon into the quest, Stan and Ari learn that there are other entities that have called themselves evil kings, and Stan doesn't agree to this, and challenges Ari to hunt down these fakes and bring them to their knees. And that is the story and main quest of Okage. If it sounds strange to you, well, it is strange. And the dialogue throughout the game always keeps a lighthearted tone, even when trying to be serious. Ari meets other party members, and one of which, the parasol-wielding Rosalind, has constant bantering matches with Stan. In fact, she's always threatening to kill Ari to release him of Stan, although he doesn't think that this is an ideal solution. Actually, there are times in the game where you'll be able to choose between 2 or 3 different dialogue options. Sometimes they affect the game, other times not. Apparently there's a hidden stat that shows which girl likes Ari the most, but to my knowledge, this is just for dialogue options. There's a fortune teller that will tell you which is most liked though, so if this is something that you really want to track, well then the option is there. The visuals of the game help to encourage the humorous nature of the game. Everything is typically drawn in bright colors, and all enemies on the overworld are shown in the typical ghostly shape. When you actually enter battle, which I'll get to in a bit, the enemies just look plain goofy. Of course they might hit hard, but sometimes you can't help but gape at the odd designs and think, what the hell is attacking me? I'm actually surprised to see how clear the graphics of the game actually are. As I said in the introduction, this is an early PS2 game, evident by the blue disc. Remember those? Yet this game looks impressive. There's a high draw distance, the characters are crisp, and the shadows are actually accurate to the people, which is something that not a lot of PS2 games did. I remember later games only using a generic black circle shadow, so seeing something like a realistic shadow in an early game for the console is a major accomplishment. Granted, the shadows of the gameplay are an integral part of Okage, but I still wanted to mention it. While I'm on the graphics, I'll say that the biggest problem with this lies with the dungeons. They're dark and foreboding, which is nice for the atmosphere, but I haven't encountered any dungeon that looked any different than the one you first encountered, other than, of course, the layout. So once you've set foot in the first dungeon of the game, well, then you've seen them all, at least from what I've seen. I'll admit I haven't finished the game because I started to get lost and I hate reading a guide with RPGs, but I've cleared at least 5 dungeons and all of them looked identical, which is a bit disappointing given the quality of the overworld's graphics. Let's move on to the battles. As I said, when running around, you'll see some ghosts materialize, and then float steadily towards you. If they touch you, you'll enter a battle. You can manage to dodge these ghosts, and it seems like the longer you can evade the battle, the more aggressively these ghosts will act to force you into a fight. I don't think there's any real purpose to the color of the ghosts, other than just being different, so there's no real need to touch a white ghost just to avoid a red one. But once you do come in contact with one of these apparitions, you'll enter a fight that's similar in design to most other turn-based RPGs for the time. Once the meter fills in the status bar, the character will be available to attack, and the game will actually pause and wait for your command, regardless on what else is happening on the screen. There's several options. You can do normal attacks, you can use a skill, or you can choose to wait. Waiting might not seem like a most useful idea, but with the right tactics, you can use this wait option to combine your focus onto one enemy. So for example, let's say that there's a group of 3 enemies. Much like the Dragon Warrior games, you choose who you want to slash based on the group, not the individual enemy. If you choose to have every character attack the group of 3, each one may attack a different one, and not do any critical harm to drop any. But if you choose wait for 2 characters and then combine on the third, each will attack the same enemy, doing much more damage. So if you think ahead a bit, you can actually make battles much more easier. or harder depending on your commands. The skill system is also a little bit different. Each character shares their magic points pool, so if you run out of MP, no one can cast anything that relies on the MP. The Scholar Kissling has an ability that can supposedly absorb MP from an enemy, but I've never seen any substantial gain from this skill. But using up MP only runs a small amount of the available skills. The other ones actually consume your health. That's right, in order to use some of your skills, you have to sacrifice a part of your life. Healing items are somewhat plentiful, and Eri gets a healing ability that uses MP fairly early, but this HP cost makes using some of the skills pretty risky, especially against bosses. And there's another risk, Eri himself. See, Eri is your main character. The others can fall and be revived easily enough. But if Eri falls, it's an immediate game over. This sort of makes sense due to Stan being an important part of the plot, but it can be frustrating to get a healing item ready to throw at Eri and then he faceplants due to massive onslaught of attacks. So you'll want to do everything in your power to ensure he survives. So does Stan just sit back and watch Eri and his party get pummeled? Not entirely. The game takes an unusual stance on preemptive attacks. When running around on the battlefield, at times Stan will suddenly pop up before a fight and ask you a question, in which you have to put together 3 phases to appease him. If you can manage to do this, you'll start the fight with Stan doing some pretty hefty damage to the entire enemy squad. If you fail, nothing happens, other than Stan insulting you on your incompetence. I mean, Eri is supposed to be a loyal slave, and if he can't remember simple things or give out a threatening war cry, I guess he's not loyal enough or scary enough to fully present Stan to the world. In any case, it's a very unique way of dealing with preemptive strikes. In addition, Stan will randomly smash an enemy during combat. The catch to this is that it seems to erase whatever battle option Eri was just given. I have died and gotten game over just because I wanted to heal. Stan decided to unleash one of his attacks, and then Eri's meter was reset and his healing command wiped. This pissed me off. Yes, I get that Stan commands his slave, but he should know that healing Eri, and therefore keeping him alive, should be the highest priority. So his attack could wait until Eri was feeling a bit better. The bastard. Let me move on to the actual dungeon crawling. Each dungeon features the same progressive style, although they may add a few elements in each new one. Each floor is locked, and in order to continue, you'll have to destroy each magical urn that sits on the current floor. That's right, an urn that spits out an elemental spell. At first, these urns hit hard, but they give out amazing XP. Later on, they still hit hard, but give out less XP. Oh well. There's other switches that you can find that also open up gates that block you from proceeding any further. Once you get to the final stairway, Stan will pop up and give you a warning that the boss is on the next floor, essentially recommending that you go back to the first floor, heal, and save. I do like how you're given a warning that the boss is coming up, so it lets you be a bit more prepared, as opposed to hang down there with your entire party at critical enough HP. The well-thrown flu-laced cough would take your entire group down. Another problem with the dungeons is that each one seems to be too zoomed in, making traversing them a bit difficult. Thankfully, you can use the right analog stick to freely rotate the camera, but this doesn't always help trying to avoid any ghosts that may appear, or even sometimes the hidden holes that will drop Eri and crew into a different area. One thing I didn't mention is the experience system, other than that little bit about the urns being a treasure trove of XP early in the game. Basically, you level up on obtaining 1000 XP. The number of XP is never increased, meaning that regardless on whether it's level 2, 10, 20, or 60, you need 1000 XP. The thing that does change is the amount of XP that the enemies will give you upon defeat. For example, an enemy may give you 100 XP when you're at level 5, but when you're at level 8, defeating that same enemy may only give you about 15. I don't know why the leveling system is this way, but I'm thinking it's so that I didn't have to edit the status screens to accommodate larger numbers. Speaking of, the menu system is a bit convoluted when dealing with equipping gear. You have to enter the menu, choose equip, then choose the character, then the gear, and then what you want to change it with, but it all feels a bit clunky. It's kind of hard to describe, but there seems to be a minor delay when navigating the menus. You'd have to play the game to understand what I'm talking about. In addition, the battle and status screen takes forever to lay out all of the information. Here, take a look at what I mean. See how long it takes to get from the end of battle to get back onto the field? This can segment into the final thing I need to talk about for this review, the load times. It's not so bad when entering or exiting towns or buildings, but the worst is after battles. The status screen takes long enough to lay itself out as it is, although this can be hurried up by mashing X constantly, but it still takes what seems like forever to go from this to the field. I think this is a limitation of the console at the time, again being that this is the standard blue CD-ROM as opposed to the DVD storage that we all came to know and love on the PS2, but it just needed to be mentioned. You know, I almost forgot about the music. Just like the rest of the game, it's strange. It's very upbeat with some strange choices. It's not too memorable though, to be perfectly honest. I did enjoy the battle theme though. It starts off really creepily enough, but then picks up the pace a bit. It fits. Okage Shadow King is a fun game, but as I said, I wasn't able to complete it in time for this review, simply because I lost interest in it. There are times where you have no idea where to go next, and the game loses appeal as you run from one side of the map to another, fighting the same 5 enemies and gaining less and less XP as you go. And then once you do reach a new area, there's the potential of getting your ass wiped out quickly. Even so, I'd still recommend it for RPG fans, as there's just way too much oddness in it not to be checked out. As much of it you won't see in other games. Final score? 7 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.